The first human I ever saw was already dead, floating past my cockpit with his eyes still open, and somehow that made the impossible feel real. We had been told humanity was a legend, a half-remembered myth traded between old admirals and forbidden archives, ghosts of a species that burned itself out before the galactic wars ever began. But there he was, blood crystallized into red ice, fingers still curled as if gripping a weapon that had vanished. And in that moment, as alarm screamed through my fighter, I realized the universe had lied to us. Or worse, it had been hiding them. But that was only the beginning. My name is Cale Thur of the Varelli Combine, Tactical Liaison 3rd Class, stationed at the edge of the Karen front. The war against the Synapse Dominion had consumed half the Spiral Arm, grinding civilizations into dust with mechanical precision. We fought with logic, probability, and cold strategy. Emotion was a weakness we bred out generations ago. Humanity, we believed, had failed because they couldn't do the same. That belief shattered the moment the human fleet arrived. They didn't decloak with elegance or announce themselves through diplomatic channels. They tore into real space like a wound, engines howling, hulls scarred and mismatched, weapons already firing. No insignia we recognized. No formation doctrine we understood. Just chaos with intent. And as their guns lit the void, the Synapse Dominion, who had never once retreated, broke ranks. None of us were prepared for that. Command channels exploded with confusion. Long-range sensors screamed impossible readings. These ships were ancient by our standards, patched together with obsolete alloys and reckless modifications. They should have failed. They should have died instantly. Instead, they charged headlong into the enemy's strongest formation, absorbing fire that would have atomized our cruisers. And then they started winning. I watched one human frigate ram a Synapse carrier at full burn, detonating its own reactor to cripple the enemy command node. The blast washed over my cockpit, rattling my bones, and for the first time in my career, I felt something dangerous coil in my chest. "Ah, what species is that?" Someone whispered over the comms. No one answered, but deep in the restricted memory vaults, a sealed file unlocked itself without authorization. A single word pulsed on my display, flagged with ancient warning sigils. Human. What I learned next changed everything. The humans didn't fight like us. They didn't calculate optimal losses or withdraw when odds dropped below acceptable margins. They advanced when they were outmatched. They screamed battle cries over open channels, voices raw with rage and grief, and something else, something burning. They fought as if every second mattered more than survival itself. One of them hailed us mid-battle. The signal was distorted, full of static, but I could see her face, scarred, blood streaked across her brow, eyes blazing with defiance. "This is Captain Mara Vance of the Terran Coalition," she said. "You're in our way. Fight with us, or get out of the line of fire." No formal greeting. No deference. Just a choice. I should have reported her for insubordination. Instead, I found myself replying "acknowledged" and aligning my fighter with hers. That decision saved my life. The Synapse Dominion adapted quickly, as they always did. Their drone shifted tactics, focusing fire on the human vessels, identifying them as a primary threat. One by one, human ships fell, burning, breaking apart, crews lost in silent flashes of light, and still they advanced. Midway through the engagement, a human destroyer took a direct hit, that should have gutted it. Instead of retreating, it vented atmosphere, sealed bulkheads, and charged forward with half its hull missing. Sensors detected life signs dropping rapidly. They were dying. They knew it. They kept going anyway. Why? The answer came too late for comfort. As the battle reached its crescendo, a Dominion dread mine revealed itself. A vast, thinking war engine that fed on fear and hesitation. Our fleets had stalled against it for years. It projected waves of psychic suppression that crippled decision-making. Varelli pilots froze. Systems lagged. Probability matrices collapsed into noise. The humans didn't slow down. "They can't feel it," my wingmate gasped. "The dread mind isn't affecting them." I opened a private channel to Captain Vance, my voice shaking. "How are your forces resisting the suppression field?" She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Resisting? Kid, we've been living with worse inside our own heads since we crawled out of the mud." Then she said the words that split the war in two. "That thing feeds on fear. We brought it something else." What happened next rewrote galactic history. Human ships began broadcasting raw neural signals, unfiltered emotion dumped into the psychic spectrum. Grief, rage, love, loss, memories of dead children and broken worlds, and promises never kept. It was overwhelming. I screamed as it flooded my mind, collapsing me into my harness. The dread mind screamed back. For the first time, the Synapse Dominion felt pain. The entity convulsed, its perfect logic fracturing under the weight of something it had never evolved to process. The humans weren't immune to fear. They carried it like a weapon, forged into something sharp and unstoppable. The dread mind died howling, its network collapsing in a cascade of cascading failures. The battlefield went silent. We had won, not through superior technology, not through strategy, but through something terrifyingly simple. Humanity felt more than the universe could handle. In the aftermath, I stood aboard the wrecked human flagship, walking through corridors scorched black and red. Bodies lay everywhere. Too many. Captain Van sat against a bulkhead, her leg gone, tourniquet soaked through. She looked up at me and smiled. "Guess the myth's over," she said. I didn't know what to say. All my training, all my logic, useless in the face of that smile. Why hide? I finally asked, "Why let the galaxy believe you were extinct?" Her eyes hardened. "Because last time we stood tall, everyone decided we were too dangerous to exist." The truth settled like a weight on my chest. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had been erased. Surviving colonies driven underground, their history classified as a contagion. They watched in the shadows as the galaxy burned, waiting for the moment when extinction was no longer the worst fate imaginable. The war gave them that moment. As rescue ships arrived, Varelli Command transmitted new orders. Classify humanity as a Tier 1 existential variable. Ally status pending review. Observation mandatory. Fear undeniable. Captain Vance just laughed again. Figures. Weeks later, I testified before the High Conclave, recounting what I had seen. Logic demanded distance. Emotion demanded gratitude. For the first time, our civilization hesitated between the two. Human ambassadors arrived soon after, scarred and defiant, offering no apologies, only a warning. "We don't want your empire," they said. "We just want the war to end." And for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy believed a myth not because it was comforting, but because it was terrifyingly true. Now, when young pilots ask me what humanity is, I tell them this. They are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest. They are not the most advanced. They are the ones who keep fighting after every reason to stop is gone. And when the universe finally pushes them too far, they don't break. They answer, because humanity was only a whispered myth until we encountered them on the front lines and realized the legend was holding back.